Hey guys, welcome to our podcast. It's unnamed, but it's our first episode, so we'll get there. I'm Elise, one of your hosts.
And I'm Caitlin, the other host.
This is a podcast that we're just going to talk about feminism, women's issues, life issues. I mean, really, it could go anywhere. We're going to start with feminism because it's one thing we're both really passionate about, something that we bonded immediately over. But, we're just going to rant about anything that we want to rant about.
Oh, yeah, every
That's
day.
kind of what we're here for.
So let's start off by, talking about what made you passionate about feminism, how you came to feminism, and, I guess, the way you were brought up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a long story. I feel like...
Yeah, I asked, 3 questions in one.
Obviously, growing up as, a kid, I had a really good family. I never was, discriminated against as a girl, I had a lot of guy friends. I grew up rough and tumbling with them, wrestling, playing ball, it was never you're a girl, you can't join us,
Yeah.
So there was no, there was no exclusion, there was no sexism, as a kid. I feel like I started to notice it as I got older, mostly in the way that a woman's relationship related to a man.
Yeah.
I always felt like as a girl or as a woman alone, I had a lot of value. My dad always, was you don't need to date till you're 25, you don't need a man, you're strong, I was shooting guns at 8 years old, he taught me to wrestle, taught me to defend myself, very, very stressed that I didn't need anybody, but I felt as I got older, it came to a point where it's well, if I did have somebody, these are the expectations as a woman that you're meant to live up to.
Everything would change.
Exactly. And so that's why I don't think I ever really wanted somebody. I wasn't one of those girls that thought about her wedding since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
I still don't think about it, and I'm 21, but I wasn't one of those people that ever wanted a boyfriend, ever wanted to date, wanted to get married. I think that's just because I'm an independent person, but I also think it's how I viewed the relationships and the role I'd have to take on if I was in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I've been in relationships because I fell in love. I'm also a hopeless romantic, so it happens.
You're both. You're a strong, independent woman that's also a hopeless romantic.
Best combination, But I think it was probably 13, 14, 15 that I really started to feel like women were put into this box from little things, and we've talked about this, the saying, why buy the cow if you get the milk for free?
That makes me so mad, on so many levels.
The saying basically is meaning that women are cows and...
Women are cows.
And it's literally comparing women to cows. It's literally saying, why would a man want to marry you or be with you long term, which is buying in the saying, if he gets your milk, which is the sex, for free. So it's if I start dating a guy and, we get intimate, why would he want to be with me for more than just my body? I'm not worth that, obviously.
Yeah, the sex is the prize.
That's all that he wants in the relationship.
That's the only reason you're ever going to get married.
Precisely.
If you have sex.
Precisely. Yeah. And that's really, I felt like that's how I was told men were. It's they only wanted you for your body. They only wanted you for sex. They wouldn't care about you for more than that. It's once they got that, what they wanted, they don't need you anymore. Yeah. That's basically what the saying is.
Why would you even get married anyway? You're going to be with this person long term.
If that's the only reason, your body is not going to look that great in 50 years. There better be something deeper than that,
Which what is so funny about that is, I was told the exact same saying.
Yeah.
Over and over again by my everyone in my life, kind of, And it's but the same people would also say, you need to find someone, with a good personality because they're not going to look like that forever. And I'm those two things, contradict each other so much.
It's true. It's almost for you, you're only worth your body because you're a woman. But if you're going to get a guy,
I need to get
you gotta have something so deeper than skin,
Well, and my family always said, guys like love, or girls like love, and guys like sex. And I'm man, guys don't want to be loved? That's so sad.
I know.
What a sad life they live.
No, I've heard things like that. And it's funny, it's I've heard a lot of things like that from the Christian community, but also the secular world. And I think in the Christian community, a lot of the Christian guys I've grown up with, they were almost told they were going to struggle with certain things.
Yeah, and then they do because they were told that.
It was ingrained in their brains, and they don't know anything else. And then, you know, I was told things were going to be a certain way for me, and thankfully it hasn't been my experience. I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully I've been with so many guys that have just wanted to marry me, you know, wanted to be with me.
Hopelessly in love with you. I just love
You know, like obsessed. But thankfully too, the guys that I have been around, they break that stereotype with men.
They were able to show you what it was actually about. Yeah.
And they're like, we were told we were gonna struggle with certain things, like this or that, but like that's not how it's really been in our experience.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of warped for both men and women in certain ways.
Genuinely, like we both have like false ideas of what life should be because we're told that from a young age of like what we should expect, what we need, what we want.
Yeah, like, and we have false ideas of what like men and women are going to be like. I feel like too.
Absolutely.
Because I do think there's been a lot of stereotypes for men and women in all of society, and I think they used to be more true in a lot of ways because men were told one thing, women were told one thing, and they didn't feel like they could be anything else.
So they just fit into their role.
And that definitely happens a lot. I mean, a lot of guys are told, "Oh, you're gonna struggle with this or struggle with that," and so it's like they grow up to do that.
Yeah.
But I also think we live in a world now where people are breaking outside of those boxes.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize the stereotypes, they don't exist. And there's just a lot more individuality in both men and women. Like,
thank goodness.
I know. Like, I mean, thank God, because I would have died in the 1900s, the earlier 1900s.
Oh, they would have burned me at the stake.
We wouldn't have lasted. No, we would have been the people getting arrested for wearing pants.
Yeah,
like
100%. Like fighting for right to vote. Like, at least I hope we would be. I would think we would be. I think
our personalities, because you know, I feel like your personality doesn't go away even if you're in a different time period, you know. And there were definitely those people.
Still be strong.
We would. There were definitely those people in the time periods that, in their own way, were fighting against the norms.
Yeah.
And there were definitely like loving, beautiful marriages where men worshipped their wives, you know, as it should be.
But they still were fighting for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do think like a lot of people in the olden days, there were those people that fit into the boxes and, you know, had the very unhealthy marriages and the very stereotypical male-female relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were a lot that, you know, they were just vibing. They were just living their best little lives and they were in love and, like, some of
had happy lives.
Yeah, the men helped with the kids and the women went to work. You know, like,
I'm sure there was that. It's important to remember that because sometimes I do get, like, really bitter about that time period.
I know.
Like, man,
I know.
everyone was so unhappy. But, like, my grandma used to tell me stuff like, she'd be like, yeah, well, like, we didn't have running water. Or, like, they had running water. My grandma's not that old. But, like, they would, like, with their baths and stuff, they were poor.
Yeah.
So they would fill up the tub, like, one time, and then everyone would take a bath. But the man always got to take the shower first, because, like, and the woman always had to take the shower last. Or the bath last. And she was always in, like, the muddiest water from, like, the man and, like, all the kids. And, like, it was the dirtiest. And my grandma said that's how she was raised. Is, like, her mom had to take the bath last. In the filthy water. Like, just stuff like that. I'm like,
you've actually never told me that before. That's so
like, gross.
Like, okay, so I feel like that definitely, it obviously happened. And it's so easy, I feel like it's so easy to look back at that time period and be like, that's how everyone was, you know?
It didn't have to be that
way. But I
also
also think there were probably those men who were like, baby, you take the first one, you know?
Yeah,
and it's like, that's because that's how they were, you know? Because, like, even in today's society, I mean, like, I feel like in today's society, you can more easily be whoever you are. Yeah. And so there's still a lot of douchebags.
More accepting.
Yeah, there's still a lot of douchebags that would still take the first bath. You know what I mean?
I would probably take the first bath, but
I would want to.
I don't think it's right.
I'd be like, step aside.
Sorry, you can take the last bath. I'm taking the first bath.
Honestly, I feel like women are cleaner than men.
So we should take the first bath. And then the man, I'm just kidding. Totally
I mean,
joking.
like, you know, like the guys I've been with,
they wouldn't care to take the last.
They would let me too.
Yeah,
you know,
they'd want you to.
Dirtier.
They want you to smell good. It's fine.
Exactly. And I feel like there's those men in all time periods that would let their woman take the first bath, you know? And there's always, I mean, even today, you know, there's always those men that are only going to want to use you for your body. They're going to see you like the cow who's only worth the milk. Exactly.
But there's women, too,
there
by
are
the way.
Like that, too. Like, and there are women that would want to take the first bath. I mean, we just said we would,
yeah.
No, you can take turns.
Yeah.
Equality.
Take turns. You get 5 minutes in. No. I get 5 minutes in.
Like one day one of you takes the first bath and one day
you can get in but don't finish. Get out real quick.
You can take a bath together.
Okay, let's keep it G. This is a rated G podcast.
If you're married, you know. But anyway, that's off topic. The point is that in all time periods and all men, all women, we're all very different, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I grew up being told that. And I feel like that's why I became so passionate about feminism and equality, because I was told men were one way and I was told women were one way.
Do you feel like you ended up hating men because of the way,
Yes,
because of the things you were told?
Yes, literally 100%. Because I was over here thinking like, okay, you know, obviously, you know, I grew up in church. Oh, men need to be the leaders. You need to submit to a man. But I was also out here being told men only want you for your body.
Oh, I know.
Why buy the cow if you get the
Literally
milk for
same.
free?
Yeah.
I felt like I was so objectified and made less than I was. Made to be so much less than I had to give. You know, like I knew. That's the thing. It never made me feel bad about myself because I knew I had so much to give.
You were awesome.
I did. Like, I knew who I was.
Like,
I knew whose
cool.
I was.
Mm-hmm.
I never... And that's why I don't think I've ever had bad situations with bad guys, because I never
knew
settled.
Your worth.
Yeah, I never let myself give into that. But I just wish I had been told, yeah, some guys are trash and they're gonna treat you like trash. Stay away from those guys.
Sometimes even the
some
majority.
Guys will love you.
Yeah.
I wish there had been more representation in what I was told men were like.
Yeah.
Because it definitely did make me hate men. Because
Me
I feel like
girl.
I was told all men were one way and they just wanted you for your body and they weren't gonna love you and respect you.
And why would you even want a man at that point?
Exactly.
And why would anyone want you to get married at that point either? You know? Like, why
I know.
Why does your family want you to get married if you're just gonna be used for sex? Like,
Exactly.
That's horrible.
It's pretty twisted.
Atrocious. Like, what is that? I was always saying that. Like, I was like, why the heck am I gonna get married to someone who's literally gonna tell me what to do, who's gonna make me submit to him, and then is only going to use me for my body.
Yeah.
And then, apparently, I'm doing this in exchange for love, which isn't going to feel like love if all he wants is sex. So he's basically faking his love for me.
Yeah. That's so twisted.
Like, that's not real love. I don't want that kind of love. Like,
it's not.
And people used to say, well, it's like servitude. And I'm like, I think better of men, and they just have to serve me all the time. Like, I want more out of life than just that.
Yikes. So what do they mean by, is servitude for him?
Like, he's supposed to serve the woman.
Like, his serving is loving you?
Yeah, like, he's loving me and serving me.
Your serving is, like, sex?
Yeah.
Basically?
And respect. And respecting his, like, authority.
Oh.
Is how I took it. They might not have meant it that way, but that's my little girl self was like, oh my gosh.
I mean, that's the thing. They could have been, because I feel like we were told really, really similar things. They could have been so much more clear with the way they said things.
Because I've talked to people and they're like, that's not what they mean. And I'm like, well, then say it right.
I know.
Literally. I'm like 10 years old listening and I'm like traumatized, like scared for my life. I'm like, man, this is all that's left for me. So I'm just going to get married. The guy's going to like tell me what to do. I'm going to have some say so. Like, you know, like, we're gonna sugarcoat it, you know, like, no, you get to have an opinion, it's just he gets the final say so.
I hate
I'm
that.
like, oh, so my opinion's not worth anything, but I get to say it.
He doesn't have to listen to your opinion, but at least you can express it.
At least you can talk, you know? You're not silent. It's not that bad, really. Plus, what kind of a woman wants to make those decisions? It really just lifts a burden off of you completely.
Oh, gosh.
Like, I've heard that one,
I have heard that one.
Yeah, where it's like, well, I don't really want to make the financial decisions, so I really feel like it's better that way. And I'm like, well, I want to make the financial decisions, too.
Yeah, like, it's whatever you want to do, whatever works for your marriage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, like,
you never want to know where your finances are? It's not the best idea, but, like,
you better trust your husband a lot if you're, like, maybe you take care of it.
Or you're, like, really stupid.
Or rich, you know. You could be like a little sugar daddy.
Hey, I mean, if I was really rich, I guess I wouldn't. No, it's...
I need to know where my money's going.
Yeah.
Some women, I guess, don't. Some men don't. I mean, you know, it just really depends on, like, what works for your relationship and what do you want to do. And that's just, like, that is the thing. That's what it boils down to. I wish I had been told... You know,
what do you want to do?
What do you want to do? Yeah. Whatever works for you, whatever works for your man. Everybody's different. Find that balance. Find what works for you. But it was so black and white. It was so
it was like,
boxy.
you have to do this.
Yeah, it was like, men are this way, women are this way, and this is how your relationship's going to be, and there's no other way. And then, this is
men mow the yard, women are in the kitchen, and men cannot like to cook, and women get... I'm like, what if my man wants to cook? Like,
Exactly.
is that such a crime of him? Like,
Exactly.
does that
My
make
man
him
cook
less
for
of a
me.
man? Yeah.
I love
Like,
a man that cooks.
Oh, I know. Like, what is
and men
that?
that cry. I mean, like, toxic masculinity has been
I
so
know.
much like
you should be
men
allowed to
can't
share your
cry,
emotions.
little boys cry, girls cry.
Yeah.
My ex-boyfriend said that to me. I mean, he's like, men can't cry.
And it's like,
little
that's
girls cry.
so unhealthy.
He cried so much in front of me, you
Yeah.
know, because it's like not even they can live up to the
Oh, I
toxic
know.
masculinity.
And
but
like, why do you, like, when a girl cries, it's like she's being a lot of drama, you know? And I mean, I think I speak for both of us when I say we both know some girls that are a lot of drama, but I
Yes.
know a lot of guys that are a lot of drama.
Yes.
In fact, I know an equal amount of both.
Right, it
And
depends on the person.
100%. And I know guys that, you know, maybe they don't cry, but they punch the wall, or they hit people, or
Yeah.
their idea of
If we're gonna talk
showing
about emotional
emotions.
maturity, yeah,
Let's talk about
because
some women that know how to cry instead of punching people.
exactly, because emotional maturity doesn't mean not crying, and it doesn't mean crying. It's
Oh, I know.
actually healthy to cry. It releases things.
I have something
Right?
to tell you.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I'm not going to mention names. That's so hard. This person told me they have 3 kids, and they're all boys. And one of them, like, I'm going to leave the youngest one out, but there's 2 boys. One's the oldest and one's in the middle. And one of them's 6 and one of them's 4.
Oh, no.
And the 4-year-old punches the 6-year-old all the time. And the 6-year-old is apparently so mature. I was so proud when I heard this. Apparently the 6-year-old, instead of hitting back, instead of doing anything else, he goes and he tells his dad every single time. Doesn't even touch the 4-year-old. It's just like, Dad, he hit me. Will you do something? Anyway, the dad told him, and this was the dad telling me the story, but the dad told him, no, you need to stop coming to me. Hit him back. He'll never hit you again. Just beat him up. Like, give him a bloody nose. And this is both of his sons, by the way. Like, he's telling one son to hit the other son. Yeah, and the 6-year-old is showing emotional maturity, much more emotional maturity than I have, by the way. Like, if someone's beating me up, I'd be like, I'd punch him back, you know, I'd take him out. But, like, he's showing emotional maturity and being like, I'm going to go tell an adult, because I am stronger than the 4-year-old. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go tell an adult. He did the right thing. And his dad told him to beat the crap out of the 4-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so he did, and now the 4-year-old won't hit him anymore. So that was the point of the story, is like, we'll see now, like, he doesn't touch him anymore. And I was like, that's so sad. Like, he had such a sweet, like,
he didn't want to hurt him.
personality, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you don't make it in this world as a man if you don't know how to hit. You don't know how to punch your way out of situations. We don't need emotions. We don't need being kind and sweet.
That is toxic masculinity at its
you
finest.
know that 6-year-old is going to grow up and be a horrible individual now, when he could have been such a sweet person. And, I mean, he could still change. Like, he could go away, you know.
He
like,
keeps it.
I was like, man, how sweet. And, like, you should be applauding your kid for being so mature to go tell an adult instead of beating up his little brother. But whatever. Anyway, that's so sad. That's my story.
That's so true.
Mad. I was like, what the heck?
That's crazy.
And I'm not going to tell you how to parent your kid. So I just stayed quiet. But I was like, what?
I would be like, actually, that is toxic masculinity, sir.
Actually, you're crazy, and you should have your kids taken away from you. Thank you.
That's crazy. I mean, there's obviously a time to punch, fight if you need to. You know, but that's your little brother, and you're 4 and you're 6.
And it's like, man, if some random dude on the street comes hitting on you, and you're like, I'm not going to hit you back. I'm just going to walk away. That's not the best.
The funny thing is,
too.
Yeah, when you're little, I mean, that's your brother.
It's not that big of it.
But that is one thing, I've talked with a lot of guys about toxic masculinity. They don't understand what toxic masculinity is. They think saying toxic masculinity means when there is a guy on the street trying to hurt your girl or something, that you just, like,
walk away and cower.
Walk away, or, like, you know, you can't fight. Like, that's mean, you know. But toxic masculinity is, like, you gotta know when the right time to fight is, and when the right time to not. And same with women. I mean, you gotta know when the right time to cry is, when the right time to get mad is.
Yeah,
when
don't
the right
cry
time
all the time.
Exactly.
That's not good either.
And, like, not that women even cry all the time. I know women that cry way less than their men. I am one of those. I am one of those women. And I'm a very emotional person. You know, like, I will cry.
I feel very deeply.
Yeah, I feel so deeply. I'm not going to say I'm someone that doesn't cry, like, a lot. It just takes a lot for me to cry. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if I was a man, there'd be nothing wrong with that either. It's literally just expressing yourself how you need to express yourself. How you want to.
Yeah. But the key is to not hold back emotions that you're feeling because you're worried that you can't cry.
Yeah.
It's okay to be sad. And why do you turn your sadness into anger? You know, like, just let it out and, like, be free to.
Yeah,
And it's okay
that
to be
shows more
angry
emotional
too.
maturity.
Yeah. We don't have to beat up everyone that offends you. That's so messed up.
Yeah, that's not good. That is toxic masculinity at its finest. You got to be able to. I always tell one of my friends this. You got to be able to feel everything you feel, but not like express it in an immature way.
Exactly.
Because
emotional maturity.
exactly, I think people really struggle to, like, they either feel too much and they express it badly, or they shut it all down. It's like you got to be able to feel everything you feel and still express it with maturity.
Exactly.
It's huge. It's huge.
Like, why can't people get this? It's not that
It's so
deep.
simple.
It's
like,
so simple.
People like the dad that you were talking about in your story. I mean, there are sweet little boys like that are just being raised
so good.
so
it makes
wrong.
me so sad. He's like,
maybe they'll be like us, who were, told things that hurt us, and we still found our way out of it.
Yeah. What's so funny is I respect the dad in so many other ways, like his opinion and stuff, and I'm like, wow, you just said that, and that was absolutely off the wall, crazy. Where did that come from?
Dang.
But he's so nice.
Maybe he'll learn too, maybe
he'll grow.
Like, yeah, he's a new father. His kids are still pretty young. I think I've really learned that. I mean, as much as I've grown, I've seen, like, my parents
Your
or
parents
friends
were with you.
or people all around me that are, like, seeing things in a new light as well. Like, especially for, like, my dad, like, he didn't have sisters, or he had one sister, but she was 9 years older than him, so it's like not anyone that really lived with him. He didn't have, like, women in his life that he grew up with, and then he had these 2 little daughters, and he was like,
what do I do with these
I
kids?
want to protect them from bad men in the world. What do I do?
And so he went,
yeah, and so it's like little overcorrection sometimes. Like, I think like we said, we were just told how bad men were all the time growing up, but I think it really came from a place of, like, love. And I think now, now that I've been older and I've dated, like, we can all see, okay, I know how to handle men.
Yeah, that's
I know what
yeah.
kind of men. I mean, you're married, so it's like,
married.
you already locked down a good one.
Well, and I told him that. I was like, man, like, I'm so lucky that I met someone that's so against the stereotypes. Like, I remember one of the conversations we had is, like, just against stereotypes, and he brought it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this guy. Like, that's crazy. Because I had never really had, like, a conversation with a man when he, like, agreed with me about the stereotypes. Like, because I was younger, I was 16 years old. Most of the time, most 16-year-old boys are just like, no, like, we're this, and this, and, feed into the stereotypes. And he was, like, telling me about it, and I was like, gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so refreshing.
If it hadn't been for him, I still would have kept the same. Like, he helped change my mind almost in a way of, like, oh, you're not just in it for sex, and you actually do want love, and you actually are this way, and you're actually compassionate, and you don't have to hit things, like, emotion. I don't know. Just changed my viewpoint of men so much. And then I met so many more men, and I'm surrounded by so many good men in my life now, which is so refreshing. Not that I wasn't surrounded by good men before, or good women. I'm surrounded by just good people, which is such a refreshing point in your life to be in, and just look up and be like, wow.
I have so many role models.
I know.
I have so many good people.
And we were talking about this the other day, just how less angry we are, like, in general, because, like, growing up and being, like, turning into a feminist, I was just constantly angry, because I was like, man, I was surrounded by people that just constantly put me down, constantly told me I wasn't worth anything, constantly told me I was just in it for, or just not just in it for sex, only worth sex.
Yeah.
And now I'm surrounded by so many amazing people, and I'm just like, wow, I'm not angry anymore.
I know.
People, like, I'm surrounded by so many great men that think I'm equal to them, that treat me like an equal, and it's just so refreshing on so many levels. I just wish so many more people could be like that.
Yeah.
It'd be so nice.
No, it's so true, because when we met, I was a sophomore in college, and you were a senior.
Yeah.
Now I'm a senior, and you're graduating. But it is crazy, because I was in a point where I was very involved with the church, and nothing wrong with the church, because I am a Christian, but just a lot of my bad experiences did come through the church.
And the anger.
And it built up so much anger in me, and I think, again, that was an area where the people around me just needed to grow. And I have full faith that they're going to grow, because I do think they didn't ever do anything intentionally hurtful. Maybe some of them did. But,
some of them,
But I was always told high school boys or the worst of the worst and just wanted you for your body. And I had some experiences with some high school boys like that, but I didn't like pay any attention to it because
Yeah.
I knew better. Then the one guy I dated long term in high school absolutely adored me. He was in love with me for 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's like him, and then the guys that I met through college, the guys I dated through college, and the guy friends that I'm surrounded by like 10 guy friends every single day. Like most of my friends are guys.
Yeah.
It's like each and every single one of them, those friendships, those deep relationships that I had, just respect me, love me. Like it's just the same thing. It's like I needed more people in my life to show me that, what I thought growing up was so wrong. And I'm so not angry anymore. We should have started this podcast when we were angry.
Yeah, I know.
We could just get fired up about it.
Man, would have been a great time. Well,
But
what makes me so sad about that is the fact that I realize that the people in my life are not as in the church, and that's what makes them not less sexist. But it's like I kind of stepped away from the church, and that's when I got less angry, and that's when I found the good people in my life. Was when I stepped away from it, and I was always told the opposite of like, if you don't make friends that are in the church, they're going to be shallow friendships, and they're going to be this way, this way, this way. And I, like, stepped out of it, and I was like, oh, my gosh, like, these are the people that genuinely make me the happiest, that make me feel like an equal to them.
Yeah.
And it's because they're out of the church, and that made me really sad, because I was like, oh, my gosh, like, stepping away from it is what.
Yeah.
So, basically, this is my message of saying, if you're involved in the church, you can still be compassionate. You can still see us as equals. You can still want equality for men and women. But I also know that there's a lot of people in the church that are that way. Maybe it just wasn't in my life because, you obviously kind of go to people that believe like you. So maybe it just kind of was who I was around. I know there's a lot of really great people in the church. If you are a really great person in the church, please find us. Cause,
please. No, I think we just had bad experiences, and I think
so too.
I think a lot of the people that I was around, I think they're just those naturally judgy types. And it's funny because it's like I associate Christianity with a lot of judgment in a lot of ways.
I do too.
But then I've met a lot of people who aren't Christians, and they're just kind of naturally judgy people.
There's judgment on both sides.
Exactly.
I think it's just because we grew up in that.
Yeah.
That it's like
we
you
just
naturally don't
that.
like what you had, and or not that you don't like what you had, but
what hurt you.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
like those judgmental, and they were Christian. The people I grew up with were Christians, and they were judgmental. But as I've gotten older, I've met like a lot of people who aren't Christians and just kind of have that like, oh. Okay,
you're that
just
way.
Kinda
No.
But they don't have the Bible to like back up their judgment, I guess.
I know they're just judgmental.
So it's
for
like
no reason.
that's just their personality.
It's like, what's your point in that?
It's just their personality, and that's something I've talked to my mom about. Because my mom was like, Christians are just sinners. They just have the personalities they have.
Yeah.
And if you're a naturally judgy person, you're going to be a naturally judgy Christian. That's just how it is. If you're a naturally loving person, you're going to be a naturally loving Christian. Like
That's
my mom.
True.
My mom has a really beautiful, deep, loving heart, and she's a deep Christian, and she's only ever showed love to those people. And then other moms that I've dealt with are just naturally judgy people, and they just,
and they'd be judgy either way.
They'd be judgy if they were Christians or not, and their Christianity is just,
it just strengthens their judgmental.
It just,
they have
makes it a little worse.
behind it now.
Yeah, they just kind of
I
throw it
believe
on
this
there.
way, and it's because of this. Yeah.
But even so much of their justification through Christianity is it's so wrong to me, because Christianity is literally like Jesus dined with the tax collectors and the prostitutes. He did not like the Pharisees, and they were the judgy church types. And so
People
it's
just
like
don't read that part.
People will cling on to anything that justifies what they believe, and I think Christianity and the church are two different things, because I think the church will use stuff in the Bible as like a justification to support what they believe when it's actually not valid at all, and they just want to like use a reason to justify why they're saying what they're saying, and that it's not like because they're a bad person, it's because the Bible says so.
Yeah.
But like the Bible doesn't really say that.
This is why I need you in my life, because I think we come at it with such like different, like we have very similar circumstances, but we also have different ones. And I feel like when we met, I was like really like bitter against Christianity, and you were still fighting for it. And I feel like it like helped me so much. I'm just like, you give me hope in like the church and like Christianity and stuff. Whereas like I think I would have none without you, because I'm just you give me hope.
Well, I don't know how much faith I have in the church, but Christians as
Yeah.
one, I can say we're still going strong.
Yeah.
We're still
And
fighting for the truth.
I struggle with that so much. I'm still like, no, like, I don't like Christianity. I hate Christianity.
Well, it's funny.
Which is so bad on my part. Like, I'll fully admit that.
No,
but
it's okay, because
but you helped
it's
me
your
so
journey.
much,
It's your
like,
journey. Everyone's
yeah.
having their own journey, you know. But it is funny because you said that you have been a lot less angry since you left the church. And so have I. I was super involved with the church pretty much my whole life, up until sophomore year when we met, where I was at this breaking point. I mean, I remember I was in my car just sobbing, praying to God, like being like, this cannot be how you view women. This cannot be how women are expected to be treated. This cannot be how I am expected to live my life if I'm going to get married. You know, like, I was at this breaking point, and that was, you were a godsend, because that was around the time we met, and that was also around the time where a lot of those friendships with my Christian friends started to fall apart because of that judgmentalness, you know, the judgment that I felt from them. It's like, I can't do this anymore, you know, and I had to step back. And since then, I have been so much less angry about women and the way they were treated.
So much happier.
I went to church about a year and a half ago, because it had been about a year before that I had been, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And at some point in this church service that I went to a year ago, the men got up and prayed for the men, and a woman got up and prayed for the women, and the man that got up and prayed for men were like, Lord, I pray you're going to raise up strong leaders. They're going to change the world. You know, you're going to make these men do everything for you and your power and your glory, and they're going to do amazing things with their lives. They're going to be leaders. They're going to be this strong, powerful people. And then the woman got up and prayed. A woman is the one praying for the women, you know. She was like, Lord, you're going to raise up awesome mothers and wives. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, that's great. You know, mothers and wives need prayers. Yeah. But, like, what about all the women that aren't? I'm not a mother. I'm not a wife. And I think I'm
we can
still...
be more than a mother and a wife.
We can be so much more than that. Even if you are a mother and a wife, you're more than a mother and a wife. Yeah, you can be a leader. You can change the world. I mean, all those things.
You can be a leader. What's that song?
Yeah, a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Love that song.
I remember my parents used to get so mad because, like, they would play that song over. I mentioned my parents. Take it. My parents would get so mad when they would play that song, like, on Disney Channel.
With Girls Month. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that? And they'd be like, be preachers. And my parents would be like,
be leaders, be preachers.
I was always like, yes, let's go.
Oh, I love Disney for that.
I loved that. I was like, yes.
It's so true. It's like, literally, I was gonna give church a chance. It had been a year, and then I go, and that's what happens. Men are prayed to be strong leaders. Women are prayed to be wives and mothers. And I had not been back in about a year after that. Now, I went back about 2 weeks ago, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was like, I'm just going to give church a try. You know, I love Jesus. I want to praise him. Guess what the topic was?
It always is.
When I went, it was women in the church.
Like, I say what are the odds is if they don't talk about it all the freaking time.
They do talk about it all the time. But, I mean, literally the one day that I would have gone in 2 years.
Like, when you needed the hope, when you were like, I'm going to give this another try. I'm going to try not to be bitter. I was just misunderstanding the church, that's all. And they're like, nope, here you go.
I will say it went better than I thought it did.
That's
like,
good.
It didn't make me more bitter. It actually
didn't make me more bitter.
I'm
just as bitter as I was before.
I had a good moment. No, actually, I'm not. That's the good thing.
Good.
I had a good moment. I had a good moment where I was like, wow. Like, and I'll tell you about it. There were some things, and I did mention this to you. There were some things I wish he had said differently or just added more onto.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sitting there like, I wish I could just stand up and be like, but wait, you know.
But wait, you actually do it next time.
I was on the balcony in the very far back, and he was, otherwise
just scream,
I would
be like, hello, I have a question.
I need to add something to that, sir.
Mic.
I would have gotten up and preached. But, you know, it was better than I thought it would be, because when he mentioned, he was like, today's topic is women in the Bible, I was sitting there like,
you just get up and leave. You just grab your purse and you're like, out. Gotta go.
I was like, oh no. And of course, like, a man is talking about women in the Bible, you know.
Who gives them the
I mean,
right?
not that women in the church have done any better when they talk about women in the Bible.
Women don't do much better
some of the most hateful things about women have been from women in the Bible. But it went better than I thought it would, thankfully. I'm not bitter or angry, so that's good, you know.
Yay!
We've healed,
We're taking steps in the right direction. We're getting there.
We have, and I think the way that I approached this sermon was different than I had approached sermons in the last 2 years, because I have come from a place of more healing. I've come from a place where I've had deep relationships with men that have showed me how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's like I think a lot of times when you're hurt or you're traumatized, you take things differently than they're actually meant to be taken.
That's true, because it's like you assume that that's what they mean.
You assume it's meant to be against you or something
Yeah.
like that. You assume people are sexist or racist or whatever it is. You just assume because you just have this trauma and hurt and anger. So I didn't assume things about this service. I was just like, we're gonna listen. We're gonna.
That's so mature of you.
I wrote down notes. Like I just I had the whole thing. So the first thing he started off in the sermon was, just because you heard it from a Christian or the church doesn't mean it's true. So I was like, okay.
Ooh.
And he was like, I am sorry for all the people in the church and all the Christians that have made women feel less than. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere. I'm listening.
He was like, I genuinely apologize for everyone in the church or any Christian that has ever made you as a woman feel less than you are. And I was like, okay, I accept your apology.
Yeah, thank you. We forgive you. Not. No, I'm kidding.
And the guy that was preaching, I had known him. It was New Vision, and he was a pastor that I had seen. I've been to New Vision since I was like 18, so it's been a couple of years now that I visited here and there. And he's a pretty good pastor. I like him. I enjoy him as a pastor.
He doesn't always talk about women.
Thankfully. Yeah, so then, how did he start it? I'm trying to think. I got notes on my phone, but the phone is
recording.
It's recording us. So, he started it with, the very beginning of the Bible, where it is said that God would make a helper for men. So that
always rubs me the wrong
helper,
way.
It kind of obviously I don't like to think that the only reason I'm here on this earth is to help men, right? The way he said it was, as a helper, it literally just means that you make things better. Men need women to make things better. Which I totally agree with. We do make things better.
We do make things a lot better.
And I thought about it, and I was like, just because of the way society has been and the way women have been treated for most of history, I think women kind of have those guards up of like, you're trying to say I'm less than or what, yeah. And it's like, I thought about it. I was like, if the Bible said, women, you need men to help you make things better, I'd be like, you're saying I need a man?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I had a little chip on my shoulder. I'd be like,
that's so true. That's the best
and
point.
I thought about it, and I was like, but it says men need women to make things better, and it's like women need men too to make things better. And like we were saying the other day when we last talked, that women need men and men need women, and I think that's really just what the Bible's saying. Like, I don't really think it's meant to be as, like, you're a helper, you're meant to help men, that's all you're good for. I don't think it's meant to be like that.
I hope not.
I think people make it out to be that way because they use anything they can to justify their judgment and their beliefs. And white men in power have pretty much clung on to anything they can to say, you need to submit, I'm a man, I'm a leader. And that's how it's been for all of time. So they will literally take any reason that they can to hold women down.
Yeah.
But
say what they
if the Bible said, women, you need men to be a helper, men would probably still go, you need us to help you.
Yeah.
But literally because men have used pretty much anything they can to press women down. But that's not a God issue, and that's not a Christian issue. That's a sin issue.
That's
and
true.
Not all men do that too. I mean, clearly we know great men that lift their women up, But bad men in history, when men had all the power, have used the Bible as a way to press women down. But that's not biblical, and that's not right. So that
still struggle with it.
That was one topic that I really appreciated. And then he talked about Jesus. So Jesus,
Elise
y'all.
loves Jesus.
Jesus is the ultimate freaking feminist, because Jesus came into the scene. I mean, the New Testament is brutal. It's brutal for women. It's brutal for men. It's brutal for children.
New Testament's brutal.
The Old Testament is way more brutal, though. I mean, just because, the way, and this is also a thing. I mean, if you are a Christian, it involves a lot of trust with God, right? Because the way that God originally set up the world was not the way it's now. It is now, originally the world was set up with no sin, and women and men didn't have the same roles they had because there was no violence, there was no war. I think when violence and war entered, men kind of took on the front stage because they were the ones that could compete in violence and war more and take over the world and gain power and control. But that's not the way the world was originally supposed to be set up. When, sin happened in the fall, men did take on that position of like power and pressed women down in that way. And there's a lot of that in the Old Testament. There's a lot of women who are treated really badly in the Old Testament.
It's like multiple wives and concubines, yeah. Which are just for sex.
Precisely. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of just bad things that happen in the New Testament, or in the Old Testament and New Testament. I mean, the Bible's written at a time where, we're not in the 21st century in America with freedom. So it's just a rough timeline in general. But even in the Old Testament, I mean, God is ordering people to kill women, to kill children, not just the men.
Kill babies.
When they take over cities. I mean, there's just a lot of brutal stuff that happens in general, right? And there's not that freedom and that grace that is necessarily seen. But that's all for a reason, because of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because enter Jesus in the New Testament, Jesus comes on and he's like, women, I've seen your struggles. I know what you're going through. I feel you. I see you. Jesus tells a woman, the very first person he tells that he's the Messiah is a woman with multiple, like, men in her life, living with a man that's not her husband. And she's not even a Jew, which is like in that time period was like the low of the low. Like Jews hated people who weren't Jews. She was like, she wasn't a Roman either. I think she was a Samaritan or something. She was like the scum of the earth,
Yeah.
And she was living with a man that wasn't her husband, and a woman too, which was already the scum of the earth at that time. And he chose her to be the very first person. He said, "I am the Messiah." And that is huge. I mean, that was like a huge declaration, and he chose her. He could have chose anybody else.
Yeah.
He chose her. And he, was the one that when the woman was wiping his feet with her hair and all the men were like, "Get her out of here. She's nasty." He was like, "Don't talk to her like that."
Yeah.
And also when he came back from the dead, the very first people to witness the greatest thing of all time were women.
And what did he tell them to do after that?
He told them to go
preach,
tell the men.
Which is preaching.
Precisely.
Preaching.
Precisely.
He told them to preach.
Precisely.
Whatever.
And that was so huge back then because women, their witness wasn't upheld in court. So he was basically saying, you're equal. Your voice matters. Go spread the word. Go preach. Go tell people because you are a witness and your witness is equal to men. I mean, Jesus was the ultimate freaking feminist. He stepped on the scene and he was like, women have rights. Yeah, they do. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to treat them as equals,
I just wish the other parts made more sense, Like,
see, I'm going to get to that.
Okay, go. Please.
So that was another thing we talked about in the church, right? And I was like, ooh, go off, So then we get to submit to each other, right? And we get to, let's narrow that down between men and women, and we get, wives, submit to your husbands, husbands, love your wives. Controversial couple of verses, right? Because I think a lot of people take that as women need to submit, let those men lead them, show respect. That's a woman's job, is to show respect. And a man's job is to love. Kind of like you were saying, with, oh, well, a man's going to love you if you show him if you give him sex and show him respect. Like, that's kind of like what you grew up being told. But I think this is something I realized a couple years ago, I think. Women have never been like, well...
We have to cut that out.
No, it's not getting cut out.
I just started dying. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
It's getting cut out.
So, when you think about marriage, you never think, well, the Bible says I need to submit and show respect, and the Bible says he needs to love me. So that means I don't need to love him. I don't need to show him any love, just respect, And so it's the same thing. Just because the Bible doesn't say men show your wives respect doesn't mean that men don't show their wives respect, that they don't need to, that isn't an expectation.
Yeah.
And that it isn't an expectation for women to love their husbands. That's just understood. And the very fact that it says right before that, submit to each other, literally right before that, is saying both people need to show respect, both people need to submit, both people need to show love. But just narrowing it down a little bit, I think what's really beautiful about those verses is that it does say, wives, submit to your husbands. But it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Which literally, to give yourself up for someone means to submit. And it is the most beautiful way of submitting. Because if you think about Christ and the way he loved the church, the way he gave himself up to the guards, the way he submitted to the guards to be crucified, to die, to die for someone is the ultimate way of loving them. And I think about my relationships personally. I mean, and that's the thing, every man and every woman's relationship is going to be different. But in my relationships, I want a man that would be willing to die for me in that way. And I do think there is, and this could be controversial, we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
But I do think there is a different expectation for men than there are for women when it comes to that kind of sacrificial love.
The sacrifice, yeah.
Because when you think of, and in that way, women are, it's not equal for men. Like, men are kind of put down here
no,
than
I
women.
1,000% agree, because, like, and I've always said this, I'm like, I would stick, I'm not going to say his name, but, like, I would stick up for my husband so fast, like, and I would beat anyone up for him. I would do anything for him. But it is, like, less, like, if he stood back and, like, watched me beat the crap out of someone for him, it'd be a lot less, like, oh,
yeah, it's weird.
Like,
I don't know.
Or like, hey, dude, you want to help me now? Like,
precisely.
Come help me beat this guy up, Or, like, whereas, like, if he, like, was like, stay back for a second, I'm going to take care of you, I'd be like,
okay, baby.
Yeah.
No, and I
it definitely is,
so
though.
true.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like the sacrifice.
And it's like, you look at the movies, I mean, most of the characters that die in movies for the ones they love are the men.
Yeah.
Not a lot of the time is there a woman who ends up being the ultimate sacrificer for her man. I mean, I think of Titanic because I love that movie and I grew up with that movie. I love that movie because there's so many instances of male and female roles. Because Rose, she's a badass woman. I mean, she goes down to the bottom of the boat when he's tied up and she saves him. Because men can save, or women can save men all the time. I mean, it happens all the time.
We save them all the time.
Exactly. Like, because, we're their helpers. They need us. but, like, literally, women are so strong. Women do strong things every single day. Women save men all the freaking time. But in that movie, who is it that ultimately saves her life and dies for her? It's him. She's not the one, like, get on the boat, let me get in the water, get on the door or whatever. Even though there was room for both, but that's
well, and beyond that, rabbit trail real quick. Can I go on a rabbit? So, if Rose hadn't just gotten on the lifeboat, like she was, like, when Jack was telling her to get off, Jack would have made it, because he could have gotten on the door. Anyway, go ahead.
You are right. You're right. Yeah, if she had not jumped off the lifeboat,
she would have gone on a lifeboat.
But you jump, I jump. Hopeless romantic.
But then they could have gone back on land and, like, continued.
But remember, her fiance Cal was gonna kill him.
But he tried to kill him even after Rose didn't get off the boat. And Jack
did. But I think if they hadn't, like.
Oh wait, is that when he handcuffed her?
No, that was before.
Yeah, he would have survived.
So that was before. No, because he had a gun, and probably as soon as Rose left, he was probably going to take Jack and shoot him somewhere.
I definitely agree. I definitely think he was going to. But then he tried to even afterwards.
He did.
And they survived.
They did. But that's because he had already run off. Because he ran off when Rose was still there. Because okay, I've seen Titanic too many times. Jack's on top of the boat, right? Rose jumps right here. And Jack runs off. And they go down, so they got a head start.
Okay, so that's why.
If Rose,
that makes me feel better, because I was kind of mad.
Oh, someone just
looked at me. That scared me.
That terrified me. I was like, there's a face. Okay, anyway,
I'm so
we got 15 minutes until we're supposed to be out of here.
Oh, dear. Well, it's okay, because we're already at 51 minutes.
Yeah, we've been talking for too long.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the boat was going down, and Rose was still, like, people, like, women, children, they were all still watching. So he couldn't just shoot him right there. He ran off. But if the boat had already left, then no one would be watching. So Jack would have died anyway. anyway, but he would have sacrificed himself for his girl, you know?
Mhm.
And for me personally, in my relationships, like, I want to be with a man who I know if I'm somewhere, he would take a bullet for me,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that is a call to men to have that love for their women as Christ did the church. And women aren't necessarily called to do that same thing.
Mhm.
You know, we're called to submit, but men are also called to submit, literally in the verse before. So really, in that way, men are called to do way more for women than women are for men. So like,
You're like,
so I'm like, you know, I think there are different ways that men and women can love each other, and I
Mhm.
do think you have to find out what works for you in your relationship.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that is often taken out of context in leadership for both men and women, because
Mhm.
women can be equal leaders to their men, but leadership isn't domineering.
Mhm.
Leadership isn't a dictatorship. Leadership is really being a servant. And I think back to like times that I've been in camp and we've done leadership activities where we wash our students' feet.
Mhm.
That is a way to show leadership. It's it's like servant leadership.
Mhm.
And washing the feet is one of those examples because Jesus washed his disciples' feet. And I think of like all the times like my boyfriends, not plural, like boyfriends at the same time.
Yeah, Lisa's over here like,
but like different boyfriends in different times of my life. You know, they've rubbed my feet.
yeah.
Or I think of my last boyfriend. He would wash my hair if I bless you.
I'm
If
like dying over here.
if I didn't want to shower but I just wanted to wash my hair,
Mhm.
he'd hold my head under the sink and he'd wash my hair. And it was just like the sweetest like way to like just take care of me, you
Yeah.
know? And I think leadership is taken care of, but it's not like a get behind me, I'm a leader, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, let me take care of you and do things that you could do by yourself, but let me save you that. Let me do them for you, you know?
You sound like my dad.
No, don't say that. And I think, I mean, it's like, for me personally, I'm okay with giving up a lot of that power.
Mhm.
Like, it's not that I couldn't do it by myself. It's that, like, I got other things to do.
Yeah.
Like, right now.
You're like, I'm conquering the world, I need your help.
Exactly. No, literally, that's what I think of it as. And it's like, you know, I'm the one, like, in my relationship that I'm in school and I'm working full time, and he's not in school. He just works. So it's like, he has a lot more time, and he'll come over and help me with stuff.
Yeah.
And if he was the one in school and working, you know, maybe I'd have the time to help him with stuff.
And I think that's the beauty of like this is that you can choose what works best for you.
Exactly.
Is like if that works best for you or if something else works best for you. I mean, really, just feminism is like the choice to choose what's best for you.
Yeah.
Like what's best for your
There's
relationship.
somebody out there.
Are they staring at us?
Yeah, I have the room till 8 o'clock.
Oh, you can see him in the video. Look.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
I have the room till 8 o'clock.
I feel like I'm in a Halloween movie.
I literally booked this room till 8 o'clock. So we have
Get
14 more
lost.
minutes.
Can they hear us out there? Leave.
I'm scared.
We have to keep this in. The person is speaking. Should we end it now?
No, we have like 10 minutes. Should I read this real quick?
Go for it. Or we can read it the next episode because we're obviously a disaster and a half. We were worried about not being able to talk long enough though.
We've talked for way too long because it took us like 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get started.
I was looking at the time and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I've been here for 2 hours and 40 minutes.
I know, it's already 7:47. Yeah, you know what? We'll save this for next time.
Okay.
We've got content.
We'll come back into it. You know what we should also do? Like, we're just gonna talk like the podcast's not going, but like, we should also do a book, like, and we should debate the Bible and stuff.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that'd be kind of fun. We
And
could do a little
and
debate.
see how the book is wrong. Because
Yeah.
the Bible is always right. The Bible is true. But the books are wrong. Because Christians use, or people who call themselves Christians, will use anything to justify what they believe whenever it isn't right.
If they want it to be right.
Exactly. I mean,
And just people in general.
if you take all different types of religions, beliefs, literally anyone will use anything to justify what they want to be right. And they'll find a way to construe it.
That's very true.
And that's why it's so important. I mean, literally, I'm a type 4 on the Enneagram. If you don't know what that is, it means...
Look it up and take the test because it's mind-blowing.
It's so mind-blowing.
It's life-changing.
It means you're an individualist. And the biggest thing for me in Christianity, in relationships, in my place as a woman in the world, as a person in the world, is do whatever works for you. And I will say, that is what the preacher ended the sermon with.
Really?
He did, because he did say
maybe I will give this
it
a
wasn't
try.
It wasn't the worst. It really wasn't the
That's
worst.
Okay. Yeah.
He did say men and women are equal in value, but with different roles, which can be true in your relationship. Men and women
pick the role that's best
exactly.
for you.
That's what I wish he had said. That was the one thing I wish he had said, because he used his wife and how good she is with the kids as her role.
But, like, I'm not good with kids.
And that's the thing. I mean,
and my brother is so good with kids, by the way.
My men have been better with kids than me.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. And he didn't say that's how it is for all women. All women are better with kids. All men are not. You know, he just used his example in his relationship. I just wish he had just said, but you do what, whatever relationship role works for you,
but
you do that.
But there's stereotypes in the world.
There are.
And people aren't necessarily better with kids because they're women, and men aren't necessarily bad with kids because they're men. And
the point is, the stereotypes need to die.
Exactly.
And as a type 4 who's an individualist, whatever works for me in my relationships, I'll take the role I need to take, and he'll take the role he needs to take. And at different points in our life, it might be different roles.
You can switch too.
Exactly.
That's the beauty. If tomorrow, you're like, dude, I'm not as good at this as you are, then you can switch.
And I think that's what's the most beautiful part about it, that it's not talked about enough. But I think, in the 21st century, it's beginning to be realized more. That it's just like, whatever's working for you. And the preacher ended it with, y'all do whatever God calls you to do. Because everybody's worried about what's God calling that person to do, and not focusing on what does God call me to do.
I love that. Yeah.
And I thought that was a great way to end it. Because that's what I've experienced with a lot of Christians. It's like, they're like, well, are you being too domineering of a woman? Are you not like listening to your man and like are you being manipulative and taking over his life? But it's like, if they were just worrying about what God called them to do, then they wouldn't be so worried about me.
Better. Yeah, just
because my relationships have been super happy in that way.
We don't need the judgmentalness.
We don't need that. Like,
you
worry about you, honey, and I'm gonna worry about me because I'm happy. My man's happy. Our relationship is good, and you can, you're not even in a relationship, so focus on yourself.
Your own business.
That's what it's about.
How dare they?
Okay. I still have 10 minutes. Should we open the door for them?
No. Don't end it like this.
Can you?
I'm sorry. Are y'all going to be in here till 8? We have a reservation at 8.
I booked it till 8. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. I booked it till 8.
Are you gonna be here?
I'm here from 4 to 8. Well, we were here at 4.
Whatever. That makes me mad.
That was a bit rude.
Okay, so we'll just cut that part out.
We will cut that part out. Or not.
So now we'll just end it.
I guess we literally still have 9 minutes. Like, I don't have to leave here till 8 o'clock on the dot.
We were in an hour, I guess.
Yeah, because yeah.
We can end it and then just still not leave until 8 to make a statement.
No, I'm not. Like, literally, we have 10 minutes.
Are you gonna be in here until 8? Like, it's not 8?
What if they hear us?
I don't care.
What is this, like, on air?
This is something you've done for me, is you've made me...
That is true. Not care about what people think about you.
So much, literally. You remember when we first met, I was like, I'm so scared. And now I'm just like, you know what? And working has done that too, where I'm just like, screw you and your feelings. This is what not really. I actually am totally not that way at all. I'm like,
there is a point to you need to stand up for yourself.
Exactly.
And honestly, I still, like, if I feel like someone's being rude, I'm pretty easy to be like, well, but if I feel like maybe, like, they're not, but, like, it comes across as rude or something, I really struggle to be like, well, I need to stand up for myself, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. Like, I do struggle, like, with confrontation, I guess.
I do too.
I struggle to not just be like, whatever you want.
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like, if
it's
I don't...
hard. Yeah, it just depends on the person. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like, like, if someone's like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I'm actually busy. I'm so sorry. I made plans a week ago, and you just asked me this last minute, but I'm sorry if it puts you out that I'm busy, and I have a life. I'm so sorry. But, yeah.
Okay, so, like, we'll cut that out, and then...
Cut that whole part out.
Anyway, so next week, we'll go into this magazine thing, which is, like... we have parts that we agree with, and I think parts that we disagree with.
I think so. I haven't read through all of it. Where's the cover? Something about real men.
So naturally, we have to go into it, but it'll take We can talk about it a whole episode because we'll go off on tangents.
We
I know
will.
we will.
We will.
But yeah.
It piques my interest. You know, it's about the war on toxic masculinity. So
we're gonna read through it. We're gonna react to it, and mine will be a blind reaction. I think you've read part of it, but
yes,
we're gonna go into it.
It's gonna be good. I think it's gonna deal with a lot of things we talked about
Exactly.
today, and my experience at church, because it does deal with Christianity and secular.
And
men.
I mean, Christianity isn't the only thing that like made us the way we are, but
Definitely
it
not.
is something very.
It's just what we have experienced,
and it kind of shaped us. I think
it did. Like if I had
we
grown
can
up
go into deeper too,
for sure, yeah, because we didn't even really finish all the things that we were told.
We went on tangents, and I'm very sorry. Thank you.
That's
if you
just part
listen
of
to
it.
this whole thing, which probably no one's listening, but you know, if you
Thanks
listen
for sticking
to this
with
whole
us.
thing, thanks for sticking around.
But yeah, I think like we grew up as Christians. If we had grown up a different way, different
We'd be
things
talking about
would
that
have
more.
shaped
Yeah.
our experience.
So this is in no way a hate on
But
Christians podcast.
It's just you are what you
As
experience.
she just showed.
I love Christians. I am one.
She loves Jesus. Anyway, thank you for joining us on our first episode.
I'm Elise Sandlin.
And I'm Caitlin Osteen, and I hope you join us for another one.
Peace out.
We were pretty good after we got over the